Morning. Today we are learning Parashat Chayei Sarah. We are using Art Scroll Chumash. We're on page 107. Last week's Parsha we finished with Akedat Yitzhak, the binding of Yitzhak, the 10th test of Abraham. And this week's Torah portion speaks about the death of Sarah. What's the connection? Why death of Sarah is right after the Akedah, the binding of Yitzhak? And that is because when Sarah found out that Yitzhak is about to be killed, she fainted and died. Why? Because the Satan, the accuser, he is trying to prevent us from doing mitzvot. And if he's not successful in preventing us and we still go and perform the mitzvah, then after the fact, he's trying to convince us that it wasn't worth it to do the mitzvah. Even after you pass the test, you should be ready for another test. Something might happen, you might lose something, in order that you should say, you know what, if I haven't done the mitzvah, I wouldn't have lost that thing. I wish I didn't do the mitzvah. So if, in fact, a person regrets doing the mitzvah, he will lose the mitzvah. So too here, Abraham had this most difficult test, the test of his life, to give up the most precious possession that he has been waiting for 100 years, his son, his only one, the one that he loves, Yitzhak. And he passes the test. But right after the passing of the test, he hears that his dear wife died. Why did she die? Because she heard that Abraham was about to sacrifice his son. And he says, Oi, he could have said, Oi, what did I do? Because of my loyalty to God, I lost my wife. Maybe I shouldn't have done it. Satan at that moment was trying to convince Abraham that it wasn't worth it. God is such a cruel God, chas v'shalom. He wanted him to kill his son, and even though he didn't kill his son, but nevertheless, God killed his wife. But what happened? We see that Abraham passed this test as well. He did not question God, as the Torah says. We're going to see in just a few sentences. Sarah's lifetime was 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years, 127 years. Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, which is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to eulogize Sarah and to bewail her. Where did he come from? Why wasn't he with her when she died? So we just answered that question. She died at the time of Akedah. He wasn't there. So he had to travel. Whether he had to travel from Yerushalayim or he first went to Be'er Sheva, as the last week's Torah portion says, and then he found out that Sarah died and he traveled to bury her and to eulogize her. So how do we know that Abraham did not complain and did not question God? Because in Hebrew, the word lispod l'Sarah v'liv kota, Abraham came to eulogize Sarah and to cry for her. The word v'liv kota, to cry for her, has a small letter chaf. the small letter Chaf tells us that he did not cry for her so much. He held his cry within himself. And that is to teach us that he did not want to cry too much. Why? Because if he cried too much, it would seem that he is questioning God. Oh God, why did it happen like this? What did you do? Rather, he kept his crying to the minimum because he understood that this is the test of Satan. And if he cries too much, he will lose the mitzvah of sacrificing his son.
Rabbi, I asked a question. Is this the second time that when his son was older and he needed to sacrifice him again? This is that time?
What do you mean, second time?
I think the first time Abraham wanted to sacrifice his son, he was 2 months, right?
I'm not
And then,
aware of that.
oh, then maybe I'm saying the wrong thing. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so this is at a time when Abraham, when Yitzhak was 37 years old. You're right, this was at a later time. Abraham right now is 137 years old. Sarah is 127 years old, as the portion says, and Yitzchak is 37 years old. This tells us that Yitzchak was not a little boy, a little baby who Abraham came and wanted to slaughter. Yitzchak was a 37-year-old man, a fully grown-up, mature man. And this shows the greatness of Yitzchak, that he did not protest. Even though Yitzchak was fully grown, he agreed to be sacrificed, which means it was not only a test for Abraham, it was a test for Yitzchak as well. And he passed it. He voluntarily stretched out his neck. He told Abraham, please tie my hands very well so that I should not move, so that the shechita, the cutting of the neck, should not be invalidated. And there are some mystical explanations of what happened at the Akedah, that really it was for the best for Yitzhak, because until the Akedah, Yitzhak had a feminine soul, so he could not have children. And if he or Abraham would not agree to do Akedah, then his soul would not be changed, and actually he would not have children. So by telling Abraham, go sacrifice your son, go bring your son on top of the altar, Hashem was telling him, this is the best. I promised you that you will have children. Don't think that by bringing your son on an altar, you are losing out on this promise. The opposite. If you don't bring your son on an altar, you will not see children from your son. Bring your son on an altar. Through him being on an altar, I'm going to consider it as if he died. I'm going to take out his neshama and I'm going to replace it with a different neshama. This time with his real neshama of a male. And when he came down from the altar, he came down with ability now to have children. And that is why at the end of last week's Torah portion, we learned about the birth of Rivka. Until then, it was not necessary to know about Rivka because Yitzchak couldn't have children anyway. Now that Yitzchak's neshama was replaced with the correct male neshama, he is able to get married and to have children, and now Hashem creates his wife. And that's what this Torah portion is going to be speaking about Yitzchak getting married. So when Abraham listened to God, and he said, even though I don't understand it, it seems that I'm damaging myself by listening to God, I will still do it because only good comes from God. He was rewarded that, yes, it really was the best for him. It was not like he viewed it that it's not good, it's illogical to kill your own son, your only one. Because he was willing to sacrifice his son, he had grandchildren and great-grandchildren forever. Until now, we are alive only because Abraham fulfilled God's command despite his own logic that told him not to do it. So, Abraham rose up from the presence of his dead and spoke to the children of Hittites. Now, Abraham quietly cried over his beloved wife of over 100 years. And now he needs to bury her. And this is another test of Abraham. Besides the fact that after listening to God's command and bringing his son as an offering, he learns that his wife died because of it. Now he wants to bury her, and he doesn't even have a place to bury her. He has to beg the local population, the Hittites, saying, I'm an alien and a resident among you. Grant me an estate for a burial site with you, and that I may bury my dead from before me. Please give me an estate. I don't have a burial plot for my wife. Even though God promised me that he's going to give me all this land, I still don't have anything to my name. And the children of Het answered Abraham, hear us, my Lord. You are a prince of God in our midst. They recognized his greatness. They recognized his stature. They recognized that he is the spiritual leader of planet Earth. In the choicest of our burial places, bury your dead. Any of us will not withhold his burial place from you, from burying your dead. So they are offering him any plot that he wants for free. It will be their honor. Abraham said, I do want a specific one. Please speak on my behalf to Ephron, son of Zohar, and let him grant me the cave of Machpelah, the double cave. And the reason why it's called double Machpelah, double cave, because it had two levels. There was you go underground, one cave, but that's not it. You have to go another level underground to another cave. Another reason why it's called Machpelah, double, because it was reserved for couples, husbands and wives. And in fact, there were 4 couples that were buried there throughout history. Adam, the first man, and Chava, the first woman, were already buried there. Abraham and Sarah, Yitzhak and Rivka, and Yaakov and Leah. 4 doubles, 4 couples were buried there. That is why this cave is called the double cave. And he said, let him grant it to me, but not for free, for its full price. And not only for one grave, as an estate for a burial site. I wanted to become a Jewish burial site forever. And until this day, Hebron and Ma'arat HaMachpelah are a Jewish
So can
side.
you repeat? You said Adam and Hava, then was it Yaakov and Leah, and what the other four?
Yes, Adam and Chava, Avraham and Sarah, Yitzhak and Rivka, and Yaakov and Leah.
Thank you very much.
Now, Ephron was sitting in the midst of the children of Chet. And Ephron the Hittite responded to Abraham. Now we turn page to 109, verse 11. No, my Lord, heed me. I have given you the field for free. And as for the cave that is in it, I have given it to you also. In the view of the children of my people, I have given it to you. Bury your dead. Now, our sages say, why does he repeat these words in the view of the people of my, of the children of my people? He repeats it again and again. And the Torah is hinting to us that he was really dishonest. He was only pretending that he is so generous and he wants to give it to Abraham for free. This was just a public announcement. But privately, he told Abraham, you understand, we don't give real estate for free. So Abraham bowed down to the members of the council and he spoke to Ephron, saying, please listen to me. I will give you the price of the field. Accept it from me, that I may bury my dead there. So Abraham says, I don't want any free gifts, not even in public. I am announcing it publicly that I'm not accepting gifts, just like he didn't accept gifts from the king of Sodom. And so too, he does not want any gifts from any human because he knows that God is the true provider. Now, Abraham offers Ephron to pay full price. So now it's up to Ephron to name the price. Ephron replied to Abraham saying, my Lord, listen, land worth 400 silver shekels between me and you. What is it? Bury your dead. The way he made it sound, it's not a big deal. It's only 400 shekel. The price, the market price, only 400 shekel, not such a big deal. Take it for free. But Abraham understood, as the verse in 16 says, Abraham heeded Ephron. He understood what Ephron meant. He wanted to be paid that full price. And he weighed out to Ephron the price which he had mentioned in the hearing of the children of Chet. 400 silver shekels in negotiable currency. Not in the currency that was used in the village of Hittites. Rather, he paid him in what in our terms we say American dollars. He did not pay them in Russian rubles. He did not pay them in pesos or francs or dinars. He paid him American dollars, the best currency, negotiable currency around the whole world, which means he paid much more than Ephron asked. Imagine, he says to him, just pay me 400 rubles, and he pays him 400 American dollars, which is 1,000 times more valuable. So Abraham overpaid for this plot in order to show that no matter who takes over this land, no matter the inflation, the change in currency, the amount of silver that I paid Ephron for this plot will be its full market value until Mashiach comes, which means nobody can ever claim that the Jewish people did not pay enough for that plot of land. So Hebron remains ours and will remain ours forever. And afterwards, Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, in the cave of the field of Machpelah facing Mamre, which is in Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And the field and the cave was confirmed at Abraham's, means they wrote a document, as an estate for a burial site from the children of Chet. Now that Abraham buried his wife, now that Yitzhak is mature, he's able to have children, Abraham will now marry him off. Chapter 24, page 109. Now Abraham was old, well on in years, and Hashem had blessed Abraham with everything. With everything, Rashi says, is in Hebrew, is son. The word bakol, numerical value 52, same numerical value is as ben, son. How did Hashem bless Abraham with everything? By giving him the long-awaited son. Without children, his life is meaningless because his legacy is gone. Nobody will follow his footsteps. Now that he has a son, everything he achieved is going to be preserved. Now somebody is asking, what about Ishmael? Did Ishmael ever get married? Of course, he got married last week's Torah portion when his mother, Hagar, got him a wife from Egypt. Okay. Now, another pshat about what does it mean that Hashem blessed Abraham bakol is that he gave him a daughter as well. So Sarah had not only Yitzhak, she also gave birth to a daughter. Now, what was her name? Bakol. Her name was everything. Bakol. Okay. So Bakol is a Jewish name. You can find some ladies whose name is Bakol. Okay, now verse 2. Abraham said to his servant, the elder of his household, don't know his name. And you'll see that throughout the Parsha of Chayei Sarah, we don't know who this servant is. From the beginning of Parsha until the end, we read about the servant. Who the servant is, the Torah doesn't mention. To his servant, the elder of his household, who controls all that is his, such a good servant, and we don't know his name. And what did Abraham tell him? Place now your hand under my thigh. This was a sign of servitude, that I'm being supported by my slave. He is my servant carrying me. That's one explanation of what it means that he placed his hand under his thigh. To show that, yes, I'm at your command, I'm your servant, I will do everything you say. And I will have you swear by Hashem, God of heaven and God of earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of Canaan. Rather, to my land and to my kindred shall you go and take a wife for my son, for Yitzhak. Now the question may be asked, a very good question. Why doesn't Abraham want a wife for his son from children of Canaan? Here you have a slave who is loyal, who is in control of everything that belongs to Abraham, and not only physically, but even spiritually. The sages say that this servant was the Rosh Yeshiva. He was the head of the academy, of Talmudic academy of Avraham Avinu. And he was teaching all the students that Avraham had. such a great man who believed in one God and served one God and knew the whole Torah, the whole spiritual dimension, and was a great teacher, why didn't Abraham want to take his daughter as a wife for Yitzhak? And that when the servant came to Abraham and said, Abraham, you have a son and I have a daughter. Can we become married, become related through marriage? Abraham said, no. The servant said, why not? Abraham said, because you come from the people of Canaan. And the people of Canaan are cursed. As Hashem said, Arur Canaan. And I come from Shem. And Shem, the children of Shem, are blessed. And the person who is blessed is not supposed to marry someone who is cursed. What does it mean? It means that the spiritual makeup of the people of Canaan was because of the deeds of their forefathers. Now, it is possible for them to convert, and it is possible for them to become Jewish, and after they do become Jewish, they are allowed. That is in our times, after the Torah was given. Before the Torah was given, Abraham said, I don't want. From here, we learn an important point about seeking out a marriage partner. Who did Abraham tell him to go to? To his homeland, to the city of Nahor, and to get a wife from his family. Now, who were his family? They were idol worshippers. They served multiple gods. They did not believe in one great God, Hashem. So the question arises, would you rather your son marry someone from not such a good family, but he is religious, like this servant from the children of Canaan, serving one God, knowing the whole Torah, or would you rather get someone from your family, from a good family, but who is atheist or idol worshiper, not religious, doesn't keep anything? Logic would tell us it's better to get someone from not such a good family who is religious. But the Torah teaches us otherwise. The Torah says the main thing you have to look at is character traits, because Torah learning you can acquire. You can learn. Serving God, understanding that there is God, you can acquire. You can learn about it, and you can be convinced that there is God and you have to serve him. But character traits that come through birth, if you don't have it, it is very unlikely that you will improve it. Our sages say that it is harder to change your character than to learn and try jealousy, your laziness, your arrogance, and you will see that it's not so easy. And that is why it is important to look at the family. And sometimes people make wrong decisions. They say, Rabbi, I want to marry someone who comes from a religious family. I say, why is it important for you? And they say, oh, because I want to celebrate Shabbat together. I want to go there and to be able to eat by them. I want to be honored that my father-in-law knows Torah. I don't want to be embarrassed that my parents-in-law don't keep Shabbat. So I tell them these are all wrong reasons. Instead of looking at the religious observance of the family, you should rather say, Rabbi, I want to marry someone who comes from a good family who are humble, who don't look for arguments, who don't like to fight, who are generous. Because religiosity changes, but character traits are much harder to change. So I would rather marry someone who comes from a humble, hardworking, honest family than marry somebody who comes from a religious family who are arrogant and dishonest. They might be religious, they might be rich, famous in the community, but I don't want to marry their daughter. And that's what Avraham Avinu is teaching us. So it's true that sometimes you find Gentiles who have better character traits than some Jews, but at the same time, you will be surprised how easy it is to reignite, rekindle the spark inside the Jew. And I witnessed it myself. I once had a friend who was not someone I respected for his character traits. He was lazy and arrogant and greedy. But one time I was shocked. One time I rebuked him. And I was shocked that he listened to my rebuke and he became serious and he started working on himself. And I was thinking to myself, if this was any other person who either was not religious or not Jewish, and I would rebuke them, how quickly would they consider changing? Then I understood, even the lowly Jew who you may look at him and may be disgusted by him, but inside of him there is a spark of holiness. And if you access it, if you know how to speak to him, you will inspire him and you'll turn him around. So we don't live in a perfect society. We are influenced by the media, by the non-Jewish influences, and unfortunately many Jewish people have layers and layers that cover their true personality. And many people say, those of us who came from Muslim countries, we learned a lot of bad things from them. Those of us who came from non-Jewish Christian countries learned a lot of things from them that are not good. Those of us that live in the United States learned a lot of bad things from the society. Nothing to be proud of. But our essence stays pure. And that's what Avraham said to his servant. Go to my family. They might be idol worshippers. They might be murderers and doing all kinds of evil deeds. But I want their daughter. Their daughter is going to come to us. We will teach her about one God, about morality, about Torah and mitzvot. And because she has the inner goodness, she will be a good wife and a good mother of the Jewish people. I know this is an exciting and sensitive topic about marriage and about our relationship with non-Jews, who we can marry, who we cannot marry, why do we think that we are any better, why we think that we are a chosen nation. But the fact remains that non-Jewish mothers tell their daughters, find yourself a nice Jewish boy to marry. Why? Because it is known that Jewish men, whether it's true or not, I'm not saying, but it is a known thing that Jewish men don't drink, the Jewish men don't beat up their wives, the Jewish men are family oriented. Even men, and I'm not even talking about how good Jewish women are. And that is one of the reasons why there is so much intermarriage, unfortunately, because everyone wants to marry us, whether it's Christians or Muslims or Spanish or black or white, doesn't matter. Everyone wants to marry Jew. And we see that. Pharaoh kidnapped Sarah. He wanted to marry her. Avimelech kidnapped Sarah as well. Avimelech wanted to kidnap Rivka. Everybody is hunting for Jewish girls. And later, we're going to see that Shechem ben Hamor kidnapped Dinah, the daughter of Yaakov. Why is everybody hunting for Jewish girls? Because they are the best wives, the best mothers. And it might not be politically correct, but we see that in society, this is the fact. Jewish men and women are the best marriage partners. And we should know that. And therefore, we should keep the good within the family. We should keep the best marriage partners for ourselves. And therefore, we should marry only Jewish ourselves. Learn from non-Jews who are eager to marry Jews, and we should be eager to marry Jews as well. So, Avram sends his servant to find a wife for Yitzhak. And the servant says, what if the wife doesn't want to, the girl doesn't want to come to this land? Should I take Yitzhak there? And Avram says, no. God, who took me from the house of my father and from the land of my birth, who spoke concerning me and who swore to me, saying, to your offspring will I give this land. He will send his angel before you, and you will take a wife for my son from there. And if, in an unlikely event that the girl will not want to come, you are free from this oath and this curse. But you cannot bring my son there. Because Abraham understood that the only way they can take a wife from a family of idol worshippers and change her is if she leaves her family, if she leaves her society. Okay, so the servant swore. He took 10 camels and gifts and a document upon which Avram wrote that all his possessions are given to his son Yitzhak. And he went to Aram Naharaim, the city of Nahor, who was Abraham's brother. And this servant prayed to God and he said, Hashem, God of my master Abraham, may you so arrange it for me this day that you do kindness with my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the spring of water, and the daughters of the townsmen come out to draw water. Let it be that the girl to whom I shall say, please, tip over your jug so I may drink. And who replies, drink, and I will even water your camels. Now we're page on 113. Her will you have designated for your servant, for Yitzhak. So he makes a test. I will ask her to do kindness. And if she does so much kindness, more than I asked, then I will know that she is fit. This was a sign from Hashem, as well as the sign of what her character is like. And it was when he had not yet finished speaking, and suddenly Rivka was coming, the niece of Abraham, with the jug on her shoulder. And she was beautiful. And she descended to the spring, filled her jug, and ascended. The servant ran towards her and said, "Let me sip, if you please, a little water from your jug." She said, "Drink, my lord." And quickly she lowered her jug to her hand and gave him drink. And when he finished drinking, she said, "I will draw water even for your camels until they have finished drinking." Our sages learn a lot of wisdom that Rivka possessed over here in these verses. I'm not going to go into it, but the actions of Rivka and the way she spoke were very smart, wise, and sensitive. She hurried and emptied her jug into the trough and kept running to the well to draw water and back, and she drew water for all the camels. The servant was astonished at her, thinking quietly whether Hashem had made his journey successful. And when the camels finished drinking, the man took a golden nose ring and 2 bracelets, also from gold, and he gave it to her without even asking her name and her family. He was already convinced, yes, God sent me the right one, and he already gave her these gifts. And he said, "Whose daughter are you?" And she said, "I'm the daughter of Betuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, the brother of Abraham." And he asked her, "Is there a place in your father's house to stay overnight?" And she said, "Yes, for sure. You can stay as long as you want. And we even have free food for your camels." We're on page 115. The man bowed low and prostrated himself to Hashem. Now somebody is asking, why did he give her a golden nose ring? And the golden nose ring is an allusion to the 10 allusion to the coin that the Jewish people donated for the construction of the Beit HaMikdash, because its weight is beka. Beka is amount of silver that the Jewish people donated each man for the construction of the tabernacle. He does not have any intimation to the golden calf, not yet. And the 2 bracelets represent the 2 tablets of 10 commandments. And that is why their weight was 10 gold shekels as 10 commandments. So the man bowed down low and prostrated himself to Hashem and said, "Blessed is Hashem, God of my master Abraham, who has not withheld his kindness and truth from my master. Hashem has guided me on the way to the house of my master's brother." So Rivka ran back to her family, told them about the guest, and Rivka had a brother whose name was Lavan. Lavan ran to the man, not her father Betuel, but rather her brother. From here we see that Lavan was greedy. He heard that a rich man came to town, and he ran to greet him, to invite him to do business on him. And we see that Lavan did not respect his father. he ran ahead of his father. And he said, verse 31, "Come, O blessed of Hashem, why should you stand outside when I have cleared the house and we have place for your camels?" So the man, the servant, entered the house, fed the camels, and they served him food. And he said, "I will not eat until I have spoken my piece." And they said, "Speak." And he said, "I am a servant of Abraham." He's not telling them his name. We still don't know what his name is. Hashem has greatly blessed my master, and he prospered. And he had a son. And my master gave everything to his son. And my master made me swear that I should find him a proper wife from his family. And that's what brings me here. And I made a condition with Hashem that if I tell the girl, please give me a sip to drink, and she'll say, please drink, and I'll water your camels as well, that's going to be the one. And who do you think that girl was? It was your daughter. And now, please tell me if you'll give me her as a wife for my master's son. And I'll take her to my master's son. And if you don't want, tell me right away. Don't drag it. And I'll go to the right or to the left. And now we're on verse 49. And now, if you intend to do kindness and truth with my master, tell me. And if not, tell me. And I will turn to the right or the left. Verse 50. Then Bethuel answered and said, the matter of Hashem. We can say to you neither and let her be a wife to your master's son, as Hashem had spoken. They recognized that this shidduch, this match, was made in heaven. And the servant prostrated himself to the ground onto Hashem. This servant brought out and gave them to Rivka as gifts, and delicious fruit he gave to her brother and her mother. Where's the father? Why? Because of a few reasons. One of which was that he wanted to poison the servant and take all his money. And instead, an angel came and switched the food, and he ate the poison himself. And there are other explanations why he died. I'm not going into them. They're in Midrash. They ate and drank, and they went to sleep. And the next morning, he said, send me to my master. And they tried to delay. Her brother and mother said, let the maiden remain with us a year or at least 10 months. Then she'll go. She's still young. And he said to them, do not make my journey successful. Send me and I will go to my master. And they said, let's ask Rivka, whatever she says. And they were hoping that she'll say, oh, Rivka said to her, will you go with this man? And she said, I will go. Say she was years old. Some say she was older. And a question is asked, how is it possible that she and water all the camels? And you'll be surprised how much a 3-year-old can do. And let me improve the signal. Okay. You'll be surprised how much a 3-year-old can do, even in our times. If you educate your children to help out, you treat them as adults, you give them jobs, you expect from them, they will be very capable, even at 3 years old. Very capable. And in those times, children matured much faster. And so at 3 years old, Rivka was already capable of supplying her whole family with water from a well. And not only that, she was even mature to actually get married. But be it as it may, we'll see that later in the next week's Torah portion, she didn't actually have children until 20 years later, which makes sense. That for the first 10 years, they didn't even try. Only when she was 13 years old, they tried. And they tried for 10 years. And only after 10 years, they realized that she was barren. And then they prayed to Hashem, and Hashem granted them a son. So she had her first child when she was 23 years old. So that should not be surprising. Okay. Now, at the same time, you should be aware that some do say that she was older, whether she was 8 years old or 12 years old. But we'll take it as the Midrash says, that she was just 3 years old. Now, the family is giving her a blessing. After she was bold enough to say, I prefer to go with this man and get married already instead of living among you, low lives. They had good character traits, but idol worshippers, they had nothing to do, so at least they gave her a blessing. And in the blessing they said, verse 60, they blessed Rivka and said to her, our sister, may you come to be thousands of myriads, and may your offspring inherit the gate of its foes. Seems like a beautiful blessing, but our sages say that within that blessing was hidden a curse. Chas v'shalom. They said, may you come to be thousands of myriads. Thousands, we know what it is. Whenever Torah says plural number, without saying what number is, thousands, it means 2. If it's more than 2, then the Torah will say 3,000, 4,000, 10,000. If it just says thousands, it means it's 2. 2,000. And myriads. How much is a myriad? Myriad means 10,000. And they said myriads. That means 10,000 times 2 is 20,000. And thousands is 2,000. 20,000 plus 2,000 is 22,000. What they, I'm sorry, but it says, it's not, that doesn't go like that. It's thousands of myriads. Thousand of, in English, it's confusing. In Hebrew, it is alfei revava. Alfei means thousands, which means 2,000, and revava is myriad. Now, if in English you have in your Chumash thousands of myriads, that's a mistake. It should say thousands of myriad. Myriad is singular in Hebrew, which is 10,000. Of means you have to multiply. Thousands of myriad. 2,000 times 10,000. How much is it? It's going to give you 20 million, which means they told her, may your offspring be the maximum of 20 million people. Sounds like a blessing, but in reality, it was a curse. What they said to her is that there will never be more than 20 million Jews in the world. And we see that from the time when the Jewish people left Egypt, when our sages say there were 15 million people, out of which only 1/5 came out, 3 million. There were 15 million people when they came out of Egypt. We would expect they should grow and grow and become more than Chinese. But no, right away Hashem cut them. Only 3 million came out. Then they grew again. And again, after every war, after every pogrom, after every Holocaust and Inquisition, their numbers were going down and down and down, until they say that before World War II there were 18 million Jews, and Hitler killed 6 million. Now again we're coming back, and there are about 16, 17, 18 million Jews, but we have this maximum ceiling that they put upon us, the curse that they put upon Rivka, that the Jewish people will never be more than 20 million people. So we say a rebuke of the one that loves you is better than the blessing or praise of the one that hates you. The rebuke of the one that loves you will put you on the right path, will help you to become better. But praise of your enemy or a blessing of your enemy might turn out to be a curse. And that's what happened over here. So Rivka arose with her maidens, and they rode upon the camels and proceeded after the man. And the servant took Rivka and went. Knowing that it would be inappropriate for a single girl to be traveling with a man or a few men, the servant with his man, they sent many female servants with her to protect her dignity. From this is a hint to the laws of Yichud, that one man cannot be alone with one woman. Rather, according to Sephardic tradition, you need at least 3 men and at least 3 women. Then, in this group, it's not considered Yichud. Now, verse 62, Yitzchak came from having gone to Be'er Lahairoi. Be'er Lahairoi is the place where an angel spoke to Hagar, and that's where Hagar still lived. Why did Yitzchak go there? In order to bring a wife for Abraham. He brought back Hagar, for he dwelt in the south country. Page 121. Yitzchak went out to supplicate, to pray in the field towards the evening. He's the one who prayed the evening prayer. Actually, not the evening prayer, it's towards the evening, which means the sun was setting, but it didn't set yet, which means it's mincha, the afternoon prayer. And he raised his eyes and saw, and behold, camels were coming. And Rivka raised her eyes and saw Yitzchak. And verse 67, Yitzchak brought her into the tent of Sarah, his mother. He married Rivka. She became his wife, and he loved her. And thus Yitzchak was consoled after his mother. And our sages say, seemingly it's out of order. It says that he married Rivka, she became his wife, and then he loved her. Isn't it supposed to be the opposite? He loved her, and that's why he married her? And they say, no. If you love somebody and then you marry them, then you're going to stop loving them, because the original love was just infatuation. It's only when you see the inner qualities of the person and you marry them, then the love, the true love, develops. Verse 25, now that Yitzchak was married, he brought Hagar, who changed her name to Keturah, to Abraham. And verse 1 says, Abraham proceeded and took a wife whose name was Keturah. She bore him 6 sons: Zimran, Yokshan, Medan, Midian, Yishbak, and Shuach. And it goes through their descendants. And now verse 5. Abraham gave all that he had to Yitzchak. But to the concubine children, who are the concubines? Hagar and Keturah, which according to some is Hagar as well. Concubine children means the 6 sons of Keturah and Ishmael, who were Abraham's. Abraham gave other gifts. Then he sent them away from Yitzchak, his son, while he was still alive, eastward to the land of the east. I would say, just say, what kind of gifts he gave them? If already it says that he gave everything to Abraham, to Yitzchak. If he gave everything to Yitzchak, what was left to give to the children of concubines? And they say he gave them black magic, the names of the angels through which you can do black magic. He gave them the occult practices to guard. Where? In the east, far east. That is the source of Eastern religions. Where do they have all their knowledge from? Because Abraham taught them. And he said, keep it. In times of Mashiach, we're going to need it. And then you'll bring it back to the Jewish people. In the meantime, keep it safely away from the Jewish people. We don't need it now. The Jewish people are in charge of preserving Torah. The Eastern religions are in charge of preserving the occult practices. Verse 7. Now these are the days of the years of Avram's life, which he lived. 100 years, 70 years, and 5 years. 175 years Avram lived. And Avram expired and died at a good old age. Mature and content, he was gathered to his people. His sons, Yitzchak and Ishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah. And Yitzchak's name is mentioned first to show that Ishmael finally admitted, he accepted Yitzchak as number one. He no longer tried to usurp the right of the firstborn. He admitted, yes, Yitzchak is the true heir of Abraham. He did teshuvah. And they buried Abraham in the cave of Machpelah. Verse 11, and it was after the death of Abraham that God blessed Yitzchak his son, and Yitzchak settled near Beer Lechairoi. So Hashem came to Yitzchak and blessed him separately from Abraham, gave him unique personal blessing. And now we learn about Ishmael's genealogy. Ishmael had 12 sons. Interestingly, just like Yaakov had 12 sons, Ishmael also had 12 sons. And we list them. And now we go to verse 17. These were the years of Ishmael's life. He lived for 137 years. He expired and died and was gathered to his people. They dwelt from Havilah to Shur. They occupied large territory, which is near Egypt, toward Assyria. Over all his brothers he dwelt. And the wife of Ishmael is not mentioned because it's not important for our history. It's not important for us to know. Torah only mentions things that we have something to learn from. Otherwise, it's unnecessary piece of information. Now, this parsha ends with words, over all his brothers he dwelt. This is in fulfillment of the prophecy that the angel gave to Hagar, that he's going to dwell over all his brothers, which means that the Arab, the Ishmaelites will spread throughout the world. And now they are spreading. In fulfillment of this prophecy, the Arabs are occupying Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. So don't be scared. Everything is according to God's plan. That means that history is coming to an end. Mashiach is going to arrive very soon, speedily in our days. Bezat Hashem. Thank you for joining me. Everyone should have a wonderful Shabbat and have a great day.